Meeting of the Pleasant Grove City Council work session held this Tuesday at it is 5 o'clock, and it is September the 4th, 2018. And where has the month of August gone? So anyway, we'll now turn the time over to
Administrator.
City Administrator.
I was going to come up with a better one.
I was coming.
Title, I don't know it. As we look at our work session agenda and for our city council agenda, that's working. We realized in hindsight that maybe we should have moved some of these to 2 weeks from now and canceled the meeting, but by the time we realized that, we were a little bit too late to do that. So we did have two individuals that were going to come today to receive their thanks from the city council for serving on the Fox Hollow board. So Corey Thomas and Gene Brown. Corey's been on the board for 9 years, and Gene's been on the board for 7 years. We are in process of taking application, and the mayor will be interviewing candidates here in the next week or two, and we're hoping for September 18th that we will have two names in front of you for appointment on that committee to take the place of Gene and Corey. I texted both Gene and Corey this morning, and they have other commitments, so they were not able to make it today. And both of them expressed a thanks for having the opportunity to serve. And so I told them that we would, Eric worked with Fox Hollow to get him a little gift, and then we also have a certificate of thanks. So we'll just take those and drop them off to them and give them a verbal thank you, a little face-to-face, but they won't be coming to city council meeting in the future. So that was part of our work session today, and with them not being able to make it, that took care of that item. So what we want to do is we'll briefly cover what's on our city council meeting agenda today, and then we'll also talk about 2 weeks from now and cover that agenda, and then we'll do some staff reports. Our work session might be somewhat brief, but we do have a couple of things that we can report to you. For our agenda today, we have an appointment to the Beautification Commission, and then we also have the declaration of surplus items. And Chief Roberts is the one that has the items. Chief, is there anything that you want them to know about the surplus items that they need to know?
We have a 2011 Ford Explorer and a 2012 Nissan Maxima that we're going to surplus to sell to make up for some of it. I've never done it before, so I don't know what else I need to do.
No, that's it. Unless Denise has something she wants to
add. I talked to Montsinger, and we're hoping to get hopefully probably around 8,000 out of the Nissan is what we're hoping, and 12 or so out of the Explorer. So we're just going to sell them on KSL. We think we'll, versus give them to Ken Garf, we'll just get more off of KSL. So that's why we're doing these two this way. And then that was just part of the plan when we did the 9 vehicles to lease. So just cut the cost down a little bit.
So who was driving the Maxima? It was a Nissan Maxima.
It was a detective, right?
It was our major crimes guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our undercover guy.
Oh, that's the one that was parked across the street from my house.
We just blew his cover, but now we're selling the car, so it doesn't matter.
Now that you know.
Just check it out.
I'll let you know his next car is.
Okay.
So that's our meeting for tonight. So, we will have open session, and if we have people that want to come and address you, we'll have that. But other than that, it's going to be a fairly brief meeting. For 2 weeks from now, on our work session agenda, we have a group that's affiliated with the Salt Lake Chamber that is going from city to city doing a presentation on affordable housing. So this is a group that's done some research and has some numbers. And they're, I think, trying to impress on cities the need for affordable housing in the state of Utah and in individual communities. So initially when they talked to us, they wanted to come back in July, or come in July, and it didn't work out on our schedule. So Kathy worked with them, and September was their next opening. So
they have recommendations, or they just want to present?
We don't know the details.
No, we have a problem.
No, we don't know the details of their presentation.
Okay.
So I think we'll find that out right along with you guys as to if there is a call to action or if this is just an awareness. And I think as a community, we have an understanding and a knowledge that affordable housing is an issue, but the remedy for that can be many different things. And so hopefully there'll be some stuff that we can kind of use and at least have in our knowledge database as we have future potential projects that are presented to you. We're also going to have Kim Wilson with the Miss Pleasant Grove pageant come. And part of this is we have been working with her on creating a contractual relationship between Pleasant Grove City and the Miss Pleasant Grove pageant. So in the past, all of their finances has run through the city books. And our preference is that we don't do that, that they would be the ones that would have to manage their own. I mean, they manage it anyway, but we were just the ones that they would run the numbers through, so it didn't make sense to us that we kept doing that. Now, we have a contribution, when we add up all the things that we pay for in this pageant, it's around $25,000, which includes the float, scholarships. I think those were the two biggies. And so so we've done some things to help them along the way, so that the contract will say we'll continue to do some of these things as far as housing the float and things where they don't really have a space. But instead, we would like to just write them the check of what we've paid for in the past and have them manage it. And part of it is they'll come back and say, well, the cost of this has gone up, and I think it's better for us to say, here's just what we're going to contribute, and then if you want to do more than that, go get you some sponsors or things like that. And so we've got with Kim, we're pretty close on getting the details worked out, but we want to present that to you. If the council's okay with that, then we'll probably have it on an October meeting where we'll actually take action and enter into the agreement. So is there any questions about that? I think we talked about this in the retreat and told you we'd be working through that, so we're finally to that point. So, okay. And then right now well, let me come back to that. We also will be having, yes. Okay, that's what I wanted to come back to. We're going to have a public hearing on, this is the McKay Christensen project. So the feedback that we got from the city council is now being put into ordinance form as far as the change in the code. The planning commission will hear that. They haven't heard it yet, but they'll hear it this month, and then it will be back in front of you guys on the 18th. So I think most of you are very familiar with that project and kind of where we're at with that. So. No, not necessarily. I mean, just based on what he's presented and what the council has said, for the most part, we're okay with that. So if there are still some things that need to be fine-tuned detail-wise, that will be the time to kind of wrap that up. If we're comfortable with where we're at and the council wants to adopt it, you can do it that night. If we're still a little ways apart, we can continue the item and send it back to kind of tie up some of those loose ends. We're also would like to do a walkthrough on the fire station on the 18th, and we can do and Kathy, will you put walkthrough and financial update so I don't forget to do the financial update? We'll probably cover the financial update in the work session, and then I think we'll probably do the tour. I don't know. We're going to have to figure out the timing because I don't want to do the tour when it's dark. So, but we have this presentation I know that we're going to have from the Salt Lake Chamber. It's going to, I think it's at least 20 minutes. So I'm not sure how much time we're going to have per se.
Can we just meet here a little early, like at 4:30? And
we could, or we could just do the tour first. But I don't know. We have a public hearing scheduled, so I'll work on the logistics of that. It's just our work session. We're going to have enough in the work session that it might, because it would be nice to take an hour to do that. And if our meeting was done by 7 o'clock and we were over there from 7 to 8, I think would be fine. But if our meeting creeps into 8 o'clock, it's going to be dark by the time we get over there. There's not power and stuff out there, so. So let me work with them. It might behoove us to do maybe what Eric's suggesting, and maybe we meet at 4 o'clock and we just bump up our work session time to 4, and then we open the meeting, and then we walk through, and then we come back here for 5 for the presentation. I don't know if that cramps schedules, but
as we could invite some of the PSB members.
well, it's open meeting, so anybody can come. I mean, yeah, it'll be an open record meeting, so. Yes, as soon as we figure it out, we can announce that. I don't know if we'll do it on Facebook. I don't know if we want 100 people here, but to have the Public Safety Building Committee here would, because we might have to get everybody hard hats and all that stuff as we're walking through. So, what's that? Uh-huh. The other option is, if the timing's not going to work out, we'll just bump it back to our first meeting in October, and we'll do the walkthrough then. So, let me work on the logistics of that, and if that doesn't work out, then we'll move it to whatever our first meeting in October is. Okay, so that's tonight, and that's in 2 weeks. Is there any questions then, agenda-wise? And we might have a couple other things that come up for our meeting in 2 weeks, but this is what we have for right now.
Anything else for Scott?
Can you give us an update on the care tax?
Sure. So our committee met, our focus group met Tuesday last week. We have 5 staff or 5 that are affiliated with the city, and then 5 residents that are part of this committee. So it's the mayor, Todd, Sid, myself, and Dion. And then we have 5 community members. And we had our 3rd meeting last Tuesday. Where we're at is really starting to put together an informational flyer. So we're on the ballot. All the stuff's been sent in. Kathy and Tina have taken care of all that so that we have our ballot language. It's going to be on the ballot. It's called Proposition 8 is the number that it's been assigned. And that will be on the November ballot, or when people get their mail-in ballots, middle of October, they'll now, have an opportunity to vote on that. In the meantime, we're putting together an informational flyer that we can mail out to all of our citizens. Also, we'll have there'll be the voting information that we're required by state law to do, which will also include the for and against arguments. So we've had a couple residents. By Friday, we had to be notified whether somebody was going to write an argument for the ballot proposition or against the ballot proposition. So we had 2 individuals that said they would like to write the for, and they're going to work that all out, who's going to write and all that stuff. And that has to be turned in by this Friday. And then we had 1 individual that said they would write the against. And so then again, they have to turn that in by Friday. Once that's turned in, and it will be printed, published, I don't know, whatever the term is, and then it will be sent to the other groups. So the against group will receive the for argument and vice versa, so that they can write their rebuttals to those arguments. So the original arguments are 500 words, the rebuttals are 250 words, and when all that's said and done, we put that in a voter information pamphlet, and that goes out to everybody in the community. We'll have a public hearing associated with that, which I think we've deemed October 23rd for the public hearing. And is that the 4th? Is that a 4th Tuesday? It probably is. So we normally don't meet, but the timing was working out that we're going to need to meet that Tuesday. So we'll do the public hearing that day, in which the for and the against arguments will be read, and the rebuttals, and then it'll be a chance for public comment. We will also be holding an open house on October 9th at the rec center, which will be informational. So we'll have things set up so that as people come in, we can talk about what the potential projects are. So what the focus group has determined, as we've talked about this, is that over the 10 years, if this ballot proposition were to pass, we estimate it's $325,000 a year, which has to be used on parks, recreation, and arts. So it's earmarked for that. Can't be used for anything else. So over 10 years, that's about $3.25 million. Okay, now that's conservative. We anticipate our sales tax revenues will rise over those 10 years, but we don't want to try to guess what that's going to be, so we're just kind of staying with this $3.25 million. What the focus group has determined is that when we send out materials for information for our public so they can know what the city would do if it passes, the city is going to commit to 4 years worth of projects. And those projects have boiled down to pickleball courts, redoing Discovery Park, redoing Downtown Park, batting cages and other improvements with the ball fields, shade covers and things like that. There's also going to be some new weight equipment that we need at the rec center. Part of that money will go towards our arts program, so we'll just set aside a dollar amount that will go to help the arts. Am I missing one? Oh, and a swim pool feature. So where we have our mushroom in the swim pool and our outdoor pool, we would take that out and put another feature in. And so we would commit the first 4 years of money to do those projects over those 4 years, because we can only move as fast as the revenue comes in. So that means we have 6 years worth of revenue that at this point today we're not going to commit to anything, meaning when we get this going, if it passes and we're in a couple of years, then we can get our group back together, or whether it's our focus group or other individuals, and then we can talk about the next 6 years worth of money. What do we want to do? What, get some input from the public to determine what facilities. So the informational material will have, these are the 4 years worth of projects that we're going to do. We'll also make it clear that the tax is 0.1% on the sales tax, or 1 cent on $10 spent for a sales tax generating item in our community. So if you go to the grocery store and you spend $10, you're going to pay an extra 1 cent. If you spend $100, you're going to pay an extra 10 cents. That money is what rolls into this and is earmarked for those things. So the informational material will cover that as well, so people understand what's on the table, so that when they vote yes or no, they have an understanding of what they're voting on. So that's where we're at. That's going to be here before we know it. I mean, we're 2 months away from the beginning of November. So we're going to try to get the informational material out the first week in October, right before the open house, so that once people get it, then they'll know that we'll have the date of the open house on there. And then I'm not sure when the informational ballot or the ballot stuff, not the ballots, but the voter information pamphlet, probably right around that same time, I'm guessing, that will come out. Yes? Yes. Yeah.
How they feel about this.
Yeah.
We come back and we
I don't know if we looked that far into it, yeah. It's through the sales tax. So we get a monthly, then they just send it to us. So we'll get a sales tax report, and so we'll get, these are the revenues that we're receiving. There'll be a little line on there that will say Parks and Rec tax or whatever, and there'll be a dollar amount attached with that. Well, we would. Yeah, that's a good question.
All right.
Yeah. 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 But I appreciate it. It's important, I think, for people to understand that this is an opinion question that we're asking our residents. So if the residents want it, they're going to vote yes. If they don't, they're going to vote no. And then we just respect what their will is. So I think technically, if the residents vote yes, the council could still say no if they chose to. If they say no, then we don't. It doesn't work in the reciprocal. We cannot just implement it just because. But cities that get a yes vote actually turn around and implement it because that's the will of their citizens. No, it's monthly. Yeah. I'm assuming that's how it's, maybe it's, our sales tax revenues are monthly. So I don't know if this comes in quarterly, if it just comes in monthly or what, but yeah. Actually from last year. Yeah. Sure. And that's why we wanted to stay conservative. So the first 4 years we're projecting about 1.3 million, and if it comes in at 1.4, then it just means we can hold that 100,000 to do something else. And you know, we're working on cost estimates right now, so there'll be a lot of moving parts when that's all said and done. We feel pretty comfortable we can, if we commit to these projects the first 4 years, we can get them done. I think that's important if that's what we're going to commit to, that we can get those done. So if there is a little bit more, then that I think that will just be helpful to ensure that. And then there will be, my guess is in 2 years, there's going to be something that comes up that we might need $15,000 to infuse and put into something right away that we are not seeing today. And that's, we might have some flexibility to do that. Well, that's where we're at. I don't know if Todd or Sid or the mayor, they've been sitting in all the meetings. If you have anything else you'd want to say regarding it. Got a good group. I mean, we have some citizens that are very engaged and would like, you know, they're involved in Parks and Rec and would like to see the enhancement of the facilities that we have. So.
Yeah, we have plenty of needs.
We do. Well, I mean, when the Parks and Rec have given their budget requests, I think the last 3 years they've asked for pickleball courts, and we've just said no. It's just not there. I mean, last year all the money went to public safety building, so yeah, it just creates opportunity. And again, if the residents want it, then we'll be able to do these things. If they don't, then we'll just have to wait.
Hey, Scott, I know you've sent us an email and updated us last week on Evermore.
Yeah.
Would you just give us a brief update since
Sure.
you toured this morning?
Yeah, so we've been in close contact. I mean, we've always been in close contact with them, but when they started advertising their opening event and us knowing kind of what state of completion their project was, we wanted to make sure that we were having communication so that we weren't getting a phone call on the Friday before their event saying, hey, we don't have occupancy and we have 2,000 people coming tomorrow. So we've been trying to stay out ahead of that one. And it feels good. They're working hard over there. And we probably need to arrange another tour and have you guys walk through this. Because they're still a ways away from completion, but what they have done is just super cool. I mean, it's like, this is really going to be neat. But for the purposes of their event on Saturday night, and then they're actually planning on a soft opening the week after, there's certain parts of the park that are not going to be completed. I'm not a construction guy, but my eyeballs are telling me some of this stuff is still at least a month away. So we're working with them that as there's a building permit for each building in there, and as each building gets completed, then we can issue occupancy, and then they can have people in those buildings. So, but part of that is pathways and walkways and all those types of things. So for the event on Saturday, we have a pretty good plan in place to get them through that night. When they open the week after, we'll be having, we're just right there with them to say we're okay with people here and not okay with people here. And safety is really the main concern. So that's the where we're coming from. But we walked through this morning. The previous walkthrough I'd been on was 2 weeks prior to that, and they got some good stuff done. Again, some of it seems like it's maybe still 2 months away, but they're going to move as fast as they can move, and they'll move as fast as they can get crews in there. And the more crews they can get, the quicker they can move and get done. So they might be able to get done quicker than maybe what we think we see today. But we just want you to know that as a city, we're really working with them because we want the place to be successful. We want them to be able to have a good opening and start getting that thing started off on the right foot. And we didn't want to be the hindrance because we had not been communicating with them. So it's going to be limited just from what we've seen. But knowing these guys and the show that they can put on, I mean, it'll probably still be pretty cool, whatever it is they do.
Yeah, very good. I just have one more question.
Yes.
Is that okay? How's First East coming, and what's kind of the update there?
That'd be Marty.
You're too comfortable over there, Marty.
Yeah, it's coming. They're shutting down this section, obviously, for the next 2 to 3 weeks. So they intentionally came all the way through Center Street from 1100 North. So that section was opened before school started. And then they're shutting down 2nd South, and we'll be getting this whole section out right now. They'll bring it back up to grade and pave it hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks is their plan. We've got some curb and gutter coordination to do with the new PSB buildings, and so we've got all of that will happen over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then this section essentially will be paved back up to normal. They're still working. I think their latest goal was to try to get all of the paving done this fall. There's been a lot of delays, a lot of changes. They're still trying to get all of the curb and gutter in, all the paving in, everything done back up to final surface, and then over the winter they'll be finishing up sidewalks and those other things that are kind of behind the curb. And then in the spring, they'll be coming back and doing a micro surface on the entire section. So we've had a lot of question about striping and things like that. It's really funky. And yes, it is. We've had some, manholes and things sticking up that we couldn't stripe it with a typical center lane and normal 2 through lanes. So they've striped it how we needed it done. They'll overlay all of that here in the next, probably by mid-October, and they'll restripe it for the winter. And then in the spring, they'll come and throw what's called a micro surface. We've done a number of those treatments on the entire road and restripe it one final time. And so that'll likely happen in the spring.
So I've got one one comment, which this totally helps. I think you've answered this citizen's question. But they said, I assume the painted lines in front of the middle school are temporary until final road work. I love the idea of a buffer they created on the turn lane into the school, but at its current width, it squishes the southbound traffic right up to the curb. That wouldn't leave any shoulder for bike traffic. So I think I've got my answer.
Yeah, so final lanes, right? Center turn lane, 2 through lanes, and there's, I think, 5 feet on each side there, so that'll be your bike lanes.
Okay.
For the most part.
And then another citizen talked to me. They had a conversation with Mr. Daly at the junior high. They said, you have been absolutely fantastic through this entire process, and this citizen wanted me to know to give you congratulations and our thanks, because it wasn't solicited. This person, Mr. Daly, was just having a kind of a candid conversation with this citizen, and this citizen called me and said, hey, you need to know that this is what's going on. So thank you for all your hard work.
We've tried to work with them.
Absolutely.
So I pay the big bucks, right?
Yes, exactly.
We're going to finally release the junior high transcript now that they've been recording.
You want to know? I don't know.
That's all right.
I met with Commissioner Lee on Friday, and that was one of the things he's really been getting beat up on is the striping on his road.
Yeah.
And or it's our road, it's everybody's road, but it's the county's road. But he's telling everybody to be patient because that's just the temporary striping. There's still more asphalt to come down, so that's been a big one for the county.
We've had a number of complaints about the roughness of the road and things like that as well. Again, this is they've got one lift in, they've got one more to go. The final surface should be much better. They're really taking a hit up through Cedar Hills where it is the final surface where they milled it, and they had some issues with they milled it 3 inches, but they had another layer that was about 1 inch below that. So as they milled it, it pilled up some of the under lying asphalt between the next lift down, and that made it a little bit, I guess, not as smooth as you'd typically see on a new road. And so they'll be doing some milling on that road to try to get it smooth, as far as a smooth ride. They've committed to do that with the contractor. And then in the spring, they'll come back and again put that micro surface on it. That'll seal up that whole road again. So anyways, it'll be really nice when we're done. I think the county is really watching to make sure that it is done right, that we are getting a good quality road when we're done here. And so just be patient. We've got to get through a few things here, but it should be really nice when we're done.
About First East? Okay, keep going. We're on the First East here. This is beat up Marty time.
Be a more time. So who in a year and lift the man?
So I hope that that's done this fall. When they put the final lift of the road on, they'll come in and raise those to grade with a typical manhole ring and cover.
Well, that's actually part of the project.
That's part
Absolutely.
of the contract. That's the contract.
Valves and manholes will all be raised. All the new ones we found that were buried in the past will all be raised to grade, because we found all of them. I think this time going down 2 feet, we found quite a bit of stuff.
Okay, on 2600 North, what's the schedule for that intersection? They haven't done anything there yet.
Yeah, the big problem between 2200 North and 2600 North has been some conflicts with our pressure irrigation line. It was fairly shallow. The design didn't take into account the depth of that, so a lot of the storm drain had to be redesigned. The sewer line, I believe, is in now. That we extended those 2 sewer lines up, so that's in. And then all of the storm drain line, I believe, is under construction right now. So I think that they said in a couple of weeks that they'll be shutting down. They're reconstructing the alignment of 2600 North where it ties into Canyon Road to the north of where it currently is. So the plan is, as from our last meeting, was they were going to construct that, get it mostly in place, keep the traffic coming and open still to 2600 North. And then they'll have to shut that down to make the final connection of that road once they get the new road constructed in place. And so that's probably going to happen here in the next couple of weeks. Once they get the utilities done between 22nd and 26th, then they'll kind of get that all realignment started there. But because of that, they didn't want to start on that while they had the rest of the road shut down. So I think they're going to wait until they get the rest of the road open back up with those other utilities.
Okay, what, I don't see them provisioning any for future light on 1800. Is that still going to happen before they do their final paving?
So all of the conduits were supposed to be installed there for just the boxes for the signals. Those should all be in place. Are you saying when you came through there with the gas, you didn't see anything?
Didn't see anything.
I can follow up with them on our meeting on Thursday whether or not all that was installed. It was all in the plans. As far as the underground conduits for the signal. So everything should be in place that way.
Okay.
And we'll make sure it gets done before they obviously do that final lift on that road. So.
And then one more question when we're talking about roads. The stop signs on 600 and 1300, most residents, if not all residents, really like that. It's so much easier to get north now on 1300 or 600. How long are we going to keep the temporary stop signs and the announcements?
We were planning to do it for 2 weeks, which Friday will be the second week. So we will be taking down those signs at the end of the week. So we've got a temporary stop sign you've seen in the middle with the red flashing just to make everybody become more aware.
Friday?
So we were planning to remove the signs, the message boards on each end. I don't know that, I mean, if we needed to leave those up as far as the temporary stop signs, that there's any concern from us necessarily keeping those there maybe for another week. The message boards cost us money.
Yeah. Message boards are probably fine to take down, but I would leave the stop signs up maybe another week or two. There's still people that are
still running them, seeing it.
Yeah, they're just not thinking. So.
Yeah. And when you get in that pattern, even I've caught myself driving down, and I'm like, these are four-way stops now. I got to stop.
Right.
And I've never come close to running them, but it's like you have to be conscientious of it because you're so used to just driving, right?
Yeah, my recommendation would be to keep the temporary stop signs in the middle of the road for another couple weeks.
Okay, I don't see any problem with doing that, and I haven't heard of anybody hitting them or things like that. They're flashing and should be visible, and we've got cones around them, so it's done. We'll have them there for another couple weeks.
Hey, do you have anything else for the council, Marty, on anything on your other projects?
There's a lot. So 6 West is under construction right now. We had one of the lane. If you drove down 6 West, we had one of the tire tracks, I guess, in the southbound lane, about 4 foot wide. That was really, we call it alligator cracking. It was really breaking up really good. We were afraid of what's going to happen this winter with potholes and things like that on 6 West, and so we had the opportunity to team with the First East Project and get that big machine that's right there that mills the road over there, because they were already here to mill out that. So if you go by there, I've had a lot of questions today. We've milled down about 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches through the pavement. We've recompacted that. We're trying to do a little bit of our own work of a kind of a cement treated base with our street crew just to give it a test. And we got that mixed in this afternoon. It's compacted back now. We have to wait for a couple of days for it to cure, just like concrete. We'll come back in, recompact that, and then put 6 inches of new asphalt on that section. So
We're on 600 and what?
from Center Street up to 600 North on 6th West.
Okay.
So it's only on the southbound lane. So right now there are plates across. I was just over there before the meeting. There's plates on all of the access points for all the residents, for the water gardens, all of that for those streets. So everything should be back open, back up. And we'll get in there and compact that, level that out over the next few days. Probably the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday time frame, we'll be repaving that road and have it back together, so it's all finished back. We got plates.
You rent
So, yeah, we don't have that many plates. We didn't have enough. But yeah, we've rented plates. We rented a compactor. There's a few things that we had to do to make this work, but the goal of this is I wanted the guys to try to see how to do this work. So this is a much larger scale of a project than we would normally do. We only have 7 guys on the crew, so doing this big of a project is pretty out there for us, but I think it's been a good experience. We've learned from it, and we hope to apply it in some other smaller areas where we have some failing asphalt, where we can mix in some base, some cement into that, and hopefully stabilize that and repave it. So I think it's been a good project so far. It's been tough, but we got through it, I think. Thanks, Mayor, for helping with this little of the grading.
Okay. It was good.
That was really nice.
My mom said I'd always be a road builder, and I disappointed
Now
her.
you
because
are.
Now I am.
Did we get a
Should be
picture of
happy.
you? But thanks for your help.
Guys, is what you're saying.
Well, Sean and I
Tell
were
them,
out
Marty,
there.
what the two that were missing.
Yeah, we were missing 2 guys today, so I think we had 5. Mayor came and did a little bit of grading. I was out there pushing concrete with the rake and things like that. It was quite the crew today. So
Had all the engineers out there, so it was engineered pretty heavy. Yeah.
it was interesting.
Okay, Tina, what do you have for us? Anything?
Items that may be coming before you. We're doing some research with regard to what the options are right now, and then we'll be coming to you in the near future.
Be able to get that on the agenda for 2 weeks?
We wanted to get the historical commission's.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yep. Need my help to coordinate that? Once a month.
I have to share you the.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. I'll coordinate there. Thanks.
Scott, does anything else come to mind that you need to? Okay, Denise.
Other than her and Kyler are kind of doing 2 jobs. Karen leaving. They're hopping pretty good. Yeah. That's why Kyler's not here. He's back in the office doing the
Well, as long as everybody gets paid, everybody will be happy.
That's our hope by Friday.
If not, you are not going to be liked very well. Okay? Okay, Sherry, you don't have that problem, but what do you have for us tonight? Thank you. Chief.
She said that she was playing by the pool. Filing started to fly away.
Okay. With the fire, what do you got for us, Chief? Anything? Jan.
We'll be coming along with Tina. Record keeping system.
Anything else? Okay. Do you have anything for us? We'll save after we go through the council real quick. If it's 1:45, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn from our work session, and we'll reconvene at 6 o'clock for our council meeting. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
A motion, do I have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.